sustainable reporting and green transition. My name is Benjamin Basmaji from UNDP, and I'll be moderating today's panel. And we're thrilled to have you all here join us to discuss this very important emerging agenda. Today we're building off the momentum of the great work that the partners here have been working on, focus on the role of Global Reporting Initiative, including the role of improving transparency and accountability by informing about the various sectors' ESG reporting and performance to foster a dialogue with stakeholders and build trust. This panel will highlight tangible examples on transparency from both private and public sector, highlighting the role of building trust and of course the role of transparency in it. So we're here, and this event is organized by World Green Economic Organization, Bayer's Australian Industry Greenhouse Network, and UNDP. And our conversation here today is grounded on a call where partners at domestic, international level, including government, markets, investors, societies, are all calling on companies to be more transparent about their sustainable development goals, sustainability, performance, and impact. And this is extremely important, and especially considering that countries are now not in track of achieving the 1.5 or well below 2 degrees Celsius target. So we're all calling upon all private sector, public sector networks, and all society approaches in order to achieve that. With me here today, I have Richmond at UNDP. He's a transparency advisor for the Climate Promise and is the manager for the Belgium-funded Enhancing Climate Transparency project, and brings over 17 years of experience to climate policy, climate finance, MRV, greenhouse gas inventories and reporting obligations under the UNFCCC, Article 13. We have Miss Susie Smith, fantastic, Chief Executive Officer of the Australian Industry Greenhouse Network, and brings executive and board experience to this panel with expertise on low carbon emission expertise from Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and Sustainability. Thank you so much for being here. We have Mr. Daniel Schneider, the Global Director of Bayer's Climate Program, and brings over 20 years of experience from the consultancy companies, especially around strategies and project management on sustainability. So I'll start the panel discussion with Richmond. How can enhanced transparency systems support countries in implementing effective climate actions? And what role does the private sector data play in ensuring robust tracking, reporting, and accountability for achieving the climate goals? I don't think, yeah. Fantastic.
Fine. Okay. No, sorry. So I was just saying thank you, Ben, and thank you for WGEO for inviting UNDP speaking here on transparency and how to more engage private sector in this process. As we always know and saying in every panels, every discussions, that the private sector is key in implementing climate actions. Government people are always trying to set the scene, trying to take decisions, try to put in place arrangement and many things. But the key partner who is responsible on action on the ground, private sectors, societies or industries who are trying to apply decisions and try to be more active in terms of climate change. So it's important to engage them in the climate transparency discussions and reporting under the UNFCCC process. So how UNDP is trying to do this? First of all, from the perspectives of UNDP, it's important to include private sector in the institutional arrangement. Without it's not, when you are talking about institutional arrangement, it's not only government, it's not only public sectors, it's not only going down to local government, but it's important to open it and make it broad. If the private sector is engaged in the process, they could better understand what could be their role at national level and how to contribute to contribute with data collections, data management, because they have a lot of data, but those data are sometimes secret because of business. So we need to be careful about that and engage them more in the discussions at national level to help them know what kind of data or of what kind of levels of information they could share that could be useful for reporting at national level. And another point is also key, is to try to avoid double accounting with private sector. Because government is like trying to collect data, trying to collect information, and they are collecting also data from some private sectors. But when we are going down to report on private sectors, it's like more detailed and more concise. So it's important for government to be sure that during the data collection, data management, they are not like forgetting data coming from private sectors. This is key and this is important. The other things that is also good is to help government understand, and UNP is doing that, help government understand that private sector, the only one thing is business. As far as private sector can understand the opportunities offered by transparency to increase their business, they will be your best friend and your best partners. So this is important. For example, we are doing in some countries helping. We are talking about selling carbon credit. We are talking about like leverage some resources in many ways, like grants, loans, and many things. But what is important for the private sector is to know and to understand how climate finance is working and what type of data and informations they could provide in order to make their proposal or make their business more clean. They all want to be more clean and more responsible in front of environment. So this is particularly what UNDP is doing. UNDP is trying to enhance the collaboration between national institutions and private sectors. My last point is about the way to develop NDCs, because we need to report. And before reporting, you need to be with them drafting your NDCs. If you forget them during your drafting of the NDC, your NDC preparations, you can't expect receive from some informations or some data from them. So during the NDC part, we have many countries who has conditional part and unconditional part. And inside the plans and the project and the proposal and objectives and actions, it's important to include private sector's activities too. Even if it's conditional, but it could be something we need to push and try to help private sectors. For example, when a private sector wants to mobilize, for example, some resources from a bank or from another financial institutions, he needs to justify that he's aligned with the national policy and national document and so on. So if he has like some project or some activities included in the global vision and the commitment of a country, he will be more powerful in terms of mobilize resources and so on. So it's important to have them in terms of not only just stakeholders to explain them that climate is very good for you, blah, 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 as we said, but it's important to have also capture the actions and the project and the plans in NDCs. It's important for them. And then during the reporting, there will be in the moral obligations to provide state of play of status of what they have included in NDCs and be part of the NDC tracking process, be part of GHG emission reductions, and be part of everything that could be done through NDCs. So these are the reasons why UNDP is key partners and trying to enhance the collaboration between public institutions and private sector institutions. I was trying to be short, but it's fine.
That was brilliant, Richmond. Thank you so much. No, I think what I take out of that is that transparency is your best friend, and that basically also helps for private sector to be engaged in the national policies in terms of NDCs and making sure that there is an accountability moving forward too. I'll move forward to Daniel. So how can the Global Reporting Initiative standards facilitate a more transparent and accountable sustainability reporting? And what specific benefits do GRI standards offer in terms of data quality and comparability?
Thank you, Benjamin. So in one of my former roles, I was responsible for the sustainability reporting. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. So I'm really familiar with the GRI guidelines. Remembering being in Amsterdam in the early years, discussing some indicators. So as Bayer, we are one of the early adopters of GRI, and GRI really helped us to tackle this fuzzy this fuzzy topic of sustainability in the early years. So really to bring a hand on sustainability, and it helped us not only to engage with our stakeholders, but it helped us also to engage internally to really make tangible sustainability, not only have some stories, qualitative areas here, but really to have quantitative figures, like for example in climate. So that's so established. Meanwhile, with the GHG protocol, you have really established figures where you can compare companies to other companies, and that's important not only for your stakeholders, that they can compare you and other companies, but it's also important to compare yourself with your peers. So if you are on the right track, and again, really to bring it to life internally, because for many stakeholders in the company, it's still fuzzy, the topic of sustainability. Compared to example for the financial reporting, we have 100 years of experience with the financial reporting. It's well established with IFRS and other standards. In the sustainability area, now we have 20 to 25 years of experience, and we are still learning. But that's pretty okay. But we have to move faster, really, because we see it's urgent. On the other hand, when talking about GI and the benefits you have to adopt it, I really recommend a staggered approach. When seeing currently new companies entering the sustainability area, for example, because of the CSRD in Europe, then it's not about the last mile really to have greenhouse gas emissions in every area measured. It's about really committing to sustainability, and first of all to have really a framework you can use really to advance sustainability in your company. And that's really the important step, not the last mile. The last mile is really for the advanced companies like Bayer. But I can give you an example. What I faced a couple of weeks ago when talking about the last mile. We are really one of the early movers, have a well-established sustainability reporting and environmental reporting scheme, are collecting greenhouse gas emissions since more than 20 years now. But when having discussions with the SBTi about revalidating our sustainability targets, So they wanted us to also include in Scope 3 the energy consumptions of all the pharmacies around the world where our products are sold. So so the percentage. So how many energy does it take in a dedicated pharmacy really to store our aspirin, for example? This is for me really just a topic that you can calculate this, but it doesn't help the world. So it's really the last mile. That's okay when it's asked to be complete, to be transparent, but we can't forget the smaller companies which are engaged perhaps only a couple of years now with sustainability and which don't have the resources to report on sustainability in such a way. Perhaps they have one person dedicated to sustainability, only half a person sitting in communication or marketing. But it's great that they also now report on sustainability. So that's why I really go for a staggered approach and start with some topics, but not going for the last mile.
Thank you so much, Daniel. That was very, very insightful, and especially you highlighting that it's a learning by doing experience, and that you don't need to be fully ready in order to do that, and it's an experience that you learn along the way. Fantastic to hear about the Bayer's perspective on this. Thank you so much. We'll move on to Susie. Thank you so much for being here as well. So I wanted to ask you about the benefits of adopting GRI standards for companies transitioning to green practices. How can GRI standards help companies identify and prioritize sustainability initiatives moving forward? So I'll hand over to you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, and thanks to my colleagues on the panel for such fulsome answers. I think I can give a 3-word answer, and we're about done for time, aren't we? No, I think just firstly with reporting, a really important question to ask is why? Why are we doing it? What is the purpose? And for mine, reporting's a partnership. If a company was just reporting for the sake of reporting and putting numbers out there that there is no interest in, then it's a waste of time and resources, right? And so we need to understand what the expectations are of our stakeholders. And if we think about the GRI, one of the things I really love about the GRI is it's outward focused. And so it's about what are the sustainability expectations on my company, or the companies, and I should say I'm an industry association, so I'm not a particular company. These views are my own. And so what the GRI does is it provides a framework by which a company can look at those stakeholder expectations and then rank, materiality assessment, but rank the importance of them to their business and to their stakeholders, and then design the plans which to address those and to provide the data. The other real positive that I think of the GRI is the way that the indicators and the sector plans are developed. They're not developed in isolation just by one side or the other. They're not developed by the auditors or by the companies or by the activists. In fact, the process of the GRI standards is done in consultation, and they'll have all of those actors around the table. And what that helps do, I think, is refine the data that is required. So it's not data for the sake of data, even though I'm a big fan of measure to manage. It is actually understanding what is that impact we're trying to understand for. And so whether that's impact on local communities or whether it's biodiversity or greenhouse gas emissions. And you'll often hear people say, well, we need more information or we need more granularity on your methane emissions from this product. What are we trying to understand here? And often it's about the pathways. I think an interesting challenge for GRI and for companies now. Well, I wrote my first sustainability report in 2003. It was for an Australian company. And they had never written a sustainability report before. So where did I go to get the information? How did I determine what's in it? It's quite easy to produce a glossy full of good news stories. It's a much harder path to actually understand what the stakeholder expectations are, understand what are those material issues, and then importantly, I think sustainability reporting shouldn't be the focus. I think your sustainability strategy that is integrated within the company should be the focus, and the reporting is the end result of that. I think one of the challenges for companies now is not only is there the GRI, but there's the ISSB, the International Sustainability Standard. There are various other requirements. For example, in Australia, where we have now through our Treasury Department have mandated climate-related financial disclosures, and we have our own sustainability standard in Australia. So one of the challenges for companies is not reporting against the standard, but reporting against which standard, and how to make sure that that is fully integrated into their strategy rather than simply producing a series of reports. I'm happy to go on, but I'll pause for breath there.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. And especially that you highlighted now that sustainability strategy should be what's leading to and the vision, while the sustainability reporting should be basically a product of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And wonderful to hear about Australia's sustainability standards too, and understand that the issue is not that they need to do it, but rather which strategies align with them. I have a question for the entire panel now. Speaking about the GRI and basically transparency overall and how we work with both the value chain but also the various stakeholders that we're all coordinating with. So my question is, how can stakeholders be engaged effectively through sustainability reporting? So basically, what are the best practices for communicating sustainability information to the stakeholders? And then I would also like to understand what are the potential risks and benefits of stakeholder engagement in sustainability reporting. And then as my last question, and sorry for that, which is basically what gaps do you all see in the current transparency reporting and sustainability reporting, and what would you all like to see moving forward? Sorry, I know it's a lot of questions. Happy to repeat them. Daniel, do you feel ready to start?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you. And thanks again, Susie. It's really, why do we report? It's because reporting drives strategy, and that's a way it works. But we should not forget that it's about the activity and not about reporting. So don't forget really to, for example, on climate, really to reduce emission, not only reporting on emissions and have 9 resources in the company on emissions reporting and only 1 for activities. And sometimes it's like that currently in many companies I know. When we're talking about stakeholders, you have 2 ways where you bring in your stakeholders in the reporting process. On the one hand, when really setting up your areas of activity, and that's included in GRI, really to engage your stakeholders when designing your sustainability strategy. So be it analysts, investors, broader public, NGOs, science, politics, and that's super important really to engage with your stakeholders. But this has its limitations. So you can ask your stakeholder, but you can't ask every stakeholder. So there are some companies have made some a kind of stakeholder forum. They send out questionnaires, so that what we did, questionnaires to 1,000 stakeholders to really define our areas of activities. But also 1,000 stakeholders are only one group of your stakeholders, and that's what you have to take in mind. It's a good view on your company, but don't forget the internal stakeholders as well. So that's why we, for example, when setting up our sustainability strategy and when we defining the materiality analysis, that's when we ask the external world, but also internal stakeholders on their view on the sustainability strategy. And the second way to engage with your stakeholders is for sure to write the report, to communicate to them. And then it comes to the question for whom we are writing this report. So I tend to say for the professional reader, because to be honest, it's not for the broader public. The sustainability report with all these requirements, it's hard to read. It's for analysts, investors, but also for your employees. So you have so many stakeholder groups, and that's the reason why sometimes sustainability report is it's a bit, I would say, weird currently, because it has to address so many stakeholders, and that makes it really difficult. And that's the reason why it's important to have at least a guiding way through the report with the GRI, with the Global Reporting Initiative standards. Your next question was about the risk. So when you ask your stakeholder, then you should walk the talk, and that's really a risk. So you can ask your stakeholder what's your view on our areas of activity, but not including their view. So that would be probably the last time you ask your stakeholders, because they won't answer you again this question, and that could be a risk, because there are stakeholders out there, non-governmental organizations, for example, campaigning NGOs. They don't want to talk to us as a company. They want to engage, but they want to bring in their view only, and that's a risk. So we are happy to be transparent, to talk to really every stakeholder, but really talk and discuss and to improve the whole system. But sometimes it's hard to have a stakeholder which doesn't want to talk to you. So I stop here, because I think my fellow colleagues here have other and additional views.
Well, I was going to say something similar, is for the corporates in the room, reaching out to your stakeholders, but for the non-corporates in the room, actually lean in. There's a reticence sometimes to be engaged in stakeholder consultation with a corporate for whatever reason, often their perception of the activity that they're doing. But I think first with stakeholder engagement, I'll say two things. One is, from a company point of view, it's about understanding, not telling them what you're doing. So seeking to get that understanding of what their issues are, what's important, how does it relate to the area, and often you can then reset what you're doing in that area. It's not about changing, it's about resetting how. The other thing that I really like to do, and this is where you do need the leaning in, and you need your stakeholders to lean in, is especially at the start of a journey, I like getting a sustainability reference group where you can have some detailed discussions and they can sit around the table and you have your one from each sector or two from each sector. So someone in biodiversity and somebody from civil society and someone. And so when you have those around the table, you're actually then giving a chance for them to tell you what those issues are important, but to hear that dialogue across the table. I think the risk is similar. I think the risk is lack of engagement, or worse, when companies go the extra mile and very transparent and are genuinely committed to their plans on sustainability or climate financing and so forth. They're often the companies that can get attacked publicly because there's more information out there, and that's the risk that you're grappling with. And the other stakeholder I was saying, Daniel mentioned this earlier, and I think it's an important one, is internal stakeholders. And so sustainability reporting started as a niche, or in public affairs or investor relations. It needs to be part of the corporate strategy, and we see that particularly in the climate side of things, and how that then is embedded. And so I think, don't forget, some of your important stakeholders are actually within those corporates.
Okay, I will try to be short. Exactly, no, it's fine. For me, one of the best or the important question is really what will be the added value for private sector to report on climate actions. This is key to help them be more engaged, because you can't engage someone if you don't know what will be the future and how I can profit. Because when we are talking to private sector, the main motto is time is money. So why should I spend or lose time discussing on a topic who I'm not sure will be profitable for me? So it's important now, when engaging private sector, to demonstrate the added value to have reporting on climate actions for them internally, as what Daniel said to Taylor. The other point is about the risk, is particularly the data accessibility. It will be open for everyone to know what you have internally in your, probably in your stomach. and also the competitivity that could be unfair sometimes for private sector. These are the two key challenges, and to overcome these challenges, what we are doing as UNDP is to help them to try to assess labels. We have green labels, we have some specific labels that could help them be more visible and have a very good publicity. So this is the way to help them communicate and be more attractive. If a private sector knows that he will be more attractive and many partners will be interested in working with them, they will be more engaged and more interested in the process at national levels, to be part, to be proud to say, in my country, yes, or in these countries we are supporting that, we are part of this, etc., etc. As this is also a good sponsorship for a private sector to be like friends with government and develop business and try to move forward in terms of climate actions. And one challenge is when we are talking about mitigation, this is completely very hard. I can be honest, because it requires sometimes additional resources, additional funds to mitigate when private sector. So it's important to work with them to help them get additional resources when they are trying to mitigate, such as, for example, let them to partnership, sponsorship, carbon market, selling things, to try to compensate the effort they will put in terms of mitigations. And when it comes to adaptations, it's like a matter of survival. So you need to survive. Business we don't want business to die. So it's important to try to survive, and they are mostly open in working closely with government. But in terms of mitigations, government to have private sectors on board to try to work to create an enabling environment, try to make some activities. For example, UNDP is leading a kind of process on de-risking DRE, de-risking renewable energy investment. We are calling this DRE. This is important. We're implementing with many countries and things. And also with some financial flow assessments and how private sectors can be more engaged in probably the conditional part of the NDCs, and how they can be support the government in terms of get co-financing projects and programs. Sometimes as best practices, sometimes in some countries with mostly national private sectors, countries are trying to work together to mobilize a co-financing fund, to get a subvention to de-risk the investment, and private sector can be more freely investing in the country, in the project, in proposal, in order to get benefits, and also in order to have a kind of sustainable activity, sustainable product, and report back to the government as PPP, private sectors, and this is very, very interesting, and UNDP is trying to support countries on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, panelists. I'm just going to check quickly if there's any questions from the audience.
It's a quick question to Thomas, maybe, but thank you very much to all the panelists for a very engaging discussion. Thomas, I think you were very fair when you said that you have the reports that are being produced, the sustainability reports that are being produced, they should be focused on the specialists, on the professionals, and this is a certain type of report. On the other hand, we would love to have this kind of process and this kind of culture being spread broader, with the also SME representatives being involved in this process and learning from experiences of maybe champions or bigger companies, sometimes even smaller companies, producing good reports, and more importantly, as Susan mentioned, having the sustainability plans in place, because the report is not the end in itself. So the question is, where you think, or maybe other panelists would think, is the golden middle between, because it will also inform what kind of report they produce. So where's the where's the balance between how to address the broader public and the specialists? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for this question. It's the question is about know your stakeholders, and really analyze your stakeholders. What are their needs to really address them? So there is no black or white answer on this. It's really to really, yeah, again, know your audience. It's when you are reporting, when you're communicating, that you are not only seeing the report with your own eyes, but try to see the reporting with the stakeholders' eyes.
Yeah, exactly right. And just quickly, I think having meaningful engagement with First Nations people and local communities, a report full of data is not going to engage with them and not going to address the actual thing that you're trying to do, which comes back to the why are you reporting. And the why is actually that having that meaningful engagement with the stakeholders, understanding what is material. And I think you're right about, like, time is money. I think we're doing sustainability because it's the right thing to do, but also because there are benefits to the business, and whether that be on energy efficiency, on water, or better community and stakeholder relations. I think you want to set it up as a win-win.
Fantastic. Thank you all so very much. To all the speakers and all the panelists, of course, and the audience members for joining us today. And I think I have 3 takeaways, which is why, know your audience, and communication. So yeah, no, thank you all very much, and thank you to all the speakers, and see you all soon.